I never thought one family gathering would change the course of my entire life. I had always believed that family events were predictable, some laughter, some drama, a lot of food, and the usual small talk. But this particular night, I learned something I wish I hadn't, something that shattered me to my core. It all started with my wife, Claire, suggesting we attend her cousin's birthday dinner. I didn't argue. We'd been married for 8 years, and although things weren't perfect, I thought we had a decent marriage. Sure, there were ups and downs. Sure, Claire had been distant lately, but I chalked it up to work stress and the usual rhythm of life. When she mentioned the gathering, I was relieved. A night out, surrounded by family, sounded like the kind of normal we needed. She dressed beautifully that night, her hair tied back in waves, her perfume filling the car as we drove. I remember looking at her thinking, she's still the woman. I fell in love with Dot. We arrived at the house, and I felt that familiar warmth. Music was playing, people were laughing, the scent of roasted food filled the air. Cousins hugged us, uncles slapped me on the back, and Claire disappeared into the crowd of relatives as if she belonged to every room at once. I grabbed a drink, smiled, and blended in. But then it happened. I was heading to the dining table, balancing 2 glasses of wine, when my eyes landed on something that stopped me cold. My wedding ring, sitting there on the table as if someone had casually tossed it aside. At first, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. I reached for my own hand, feeling the cool band around my finger. Mine was still there, so whose was this? It was identical, the same engravings on the inside, the same scratch on the edge that only came from years of wearing it. My heart began to race. I picked it up and held it closer. This wasn't just a ring like mine. This was mine, but how? I checked my hand again. My ring was gone. I hadn't even noticed when it slipped off. Or maybe it hadn't slipped off at all. Maybe someone had taken it. I looked around the room, faces blurred as my mind raced. Claire was across the room, laughing with her cousin. But something about the way she held herself, it felt wrong. She wasn't looking at me. She hadn't checked on me once since we arrived. Then I noticed something else. A man, her cousin's friend, supposedly. He was standing near her, leaning close, his hand brushing against hers in ways that weren't accidental. Claire didn't pull away. She smiled, and in that moment I knew this wasn't just about a family dinner. This was a setup. The ring on the table wasn't an accident. It was a message. My mind replayed everything from the past few weeks. Claire's late nights at work, her sudden interest in locking her phone, the way she avoided intimacy, brushing me off with excuses of being too tired. I felt the weight of the ring in my palm. My chest tightened. I didn't want to believe it, but the pieces fit too perfectly. When dessert was served, I excused myself quietly. I slipped into the hallway, my eyes never leaving Claire and that man. I watched them laugh, whisper, lean close. My stomach twisted with anger and betrayal. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. Proof. My hands were trembling, but I knew I needed evidence. Then, as if fate itself wanted to crush me further, I saw her hand reach into her purse. She pulled out her phone, tilted it, and I caught a glimpse of the screen. It wasn't just texting. It was a message to him. I'll tell him soon, tonight maybe. He deserves to know. My blood went cold. I realized then that the wedding ring wasn't carelessly left behind. It was hers. She had taken it off. She had placed it on that table. She wanted me to see it. This was her way of telling me she was done. The rest of the night blurred. I went through the motions, forced to smile, answered questions from relatives. But inside, I was breaking apart. My wife had chosen this night, this family gathering, to humiliate me, to silently confess her betrayal in front of everyone, without words. When we got home, she acted as if nothing was wrong. She kissed me goodnight with lips that no longer felt like mine. And I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, clutching that ring in my pocket, but I wasn't broken. Not completely, because that night I made a decision. If she wanted to play games, I would end them. If she thought she could humiliate me, I would show her the power of silence. The next morning, I didn't confront her. I didn't beg or plead. Instead, I contacted a lawyer. I gathered every piece of evidence I had, photos, texts, timelines. And slowly, quietly, I prepared my exit. Weeks later, when she least expected it, she was served divorce papers at work. She stormed into the house that night, furious, demanding an explanation. "You think you're the only one who gets to play games?" I told her calmly. "You left your ring on the table that night. You thought I wouldn't notice. But I did." And that's when I realized the truth. You never valued this marriage, but I do value myself. She broke down, cried, begged me not to go through with it. But it was too late. She took everything from me that night, my trust, my faith, my heart. But in return, I took back my dignity, and that I realized was the one thing she could never steal.